This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such. What's good, y'all? It's season 5 of the Past BT Pod with your host, BT. We have a new season here, and it's time to get this show going. As you all know, we talk about sports. Sports won't be as big of a carrier this year. I think we'll be carrying more towards the stuff, and predominantly on the sports side, you'll be hearing more from the musical aspect, but we will still be talking about technical. We'll be giving you the video game content. I will still be going over the ass of the week. We'll definitely be passing the message. You'll be getting an angel number, and you'll get quite a few gems. So sit back, relax, take your time. Don't waste your time. This is the Past BT with your host, Brian. What is up? What is good? I feel like I have not recorded in the longest time because I sit and I process and I gather and I create and I worked on a lot of things, but we back and we back better than ever. We moving like it ain't nobody's business. We ain't letting nothing slow this show down because as the world says, the show must go on. I am here to share that we back. And I'm going to explain what that means in just a sec, but I wanted to at least start with that exciting and extravagant intro because y'all know how I do. Episode 326 of The Past is here. I am your host, BT, as always. I'm going to do something somewhat different, but somewhat unique. Normally, whenever I do my recordings, I always pre-title my show based on what has been going on. I'm not doing that this week. I'm also realizing that I'm freestyling and I'm really taking a risk because I'm doing this show with no water. So we're going to see how it goes. Y'all know I don't think, sometimes I think straight and then sometimes I have it mixed up. But the emphasis on why we are back is because I'm actually back to my normal format of how I like to record, which is at a desk and or table. And as y'all probably going to hear, I have a different interface or a different view. I have been given an idea and I'm going to consider it soon to possibly come back to doing my lives. We'll see how that goes on Instagram. But I also have my audio interface back. And for those of you who may or may not be aware, I've been, and I might have shared this on the show before. So if you've already heard it, then just keep press a little forward and you'll get into the content of what you're coming for. But those who haven't, I was using Audacity when I went through a little bit of a hiccup with my audio concerns. Luckily, I was able to figure out that I needed to invest in myself, and I'm doing the investing the right way. And I'm not just doing it just to do it. I'm doing it because I have to do it. So I'm taking that plunge. I've put back the time into the things that I need to do what I'm doing, which is one of those being Adobe Audition. Anyone that knows me knows I love, eat, sleep, breathe, live by and live through Adobe Audition's interface and style for the recording and also for the simplicity that I've grown accustomed to for the last at least 3 or 4 years in using the program. So that's back up and I feel really good. I'm in a good space. I'm in a good place. Had some very inspiring conversations this week with a lot of friends and a lot of family, and that's been helpful on multiple levels. So I wanted to at least get that in the mix, and it's going to kind of intertwine a little bit with what I have as the passive message. So I'll be sure to remember that at that point. All of that being the case, this is going to be my first my personal first dedicated show. I am dedicating this show to my father. Yesterday, he turned 86 years old, and I don't know about anybody else. That is a blessing to experience in and of itself. I also, and like I said, I'm doing things a little different this episode, because like I said, I really have not sat in front of the mic and really let off and really talk for a minute. So if I'm a little rusty at this, y'all bear with me. Y'all know how I do. Y'all know, you know what you're here for. Like I said, as I said, ending 2020 and going into 2021, if you know, you know. But I'm also going to dedicate this to my brother, David, who has been David Wallace. He's been like very inspirational to me on a lot of levels. And it's tough because it takes things happening for other things to transpire. And I can definitely say without a shadow of a doubt, I really value and I really cherish the friendship and the relationship that we've grown, and like our familyship, if you want to call it such, that has developed over the years. And I'm very grateful and very humbled by it. And I'm dedicating it to him because today is his graduation ceremony, which I believe is about to start if it hasn't already started. He graduated from, this is when you got to get information to be ready, Texas University of Theology. And he is getting his doctorate of ministry in theological studies. I'll tell this story and then I'll get into y'all to the regular stuff. He asked me a few days ago what my address was, and I thought nothing of it. I'm just like, yeah, sure is whatever. And my mom is talking to me and she's saying, hey, did you know about David graduating? And I was like, no, I hadn't known anything or didn't hear anything about it, or didn't really come up as a conversation initially. And I come home like that same day. I come home and I get the actual invitation for his ceremony, which 9 times out of 10 is going to be done virtually. And let me make sure I'm looking at the right date, because this is going to be actually, his will be the 26th. So it's in a few days. So it's not today, but it is coming soon. So being that I came out of podcast retirement, I guess I need to clear up what I just said on this episode. And this is the joy of doing editing, by the way. I stated that his graduation was next week. It's actually June 26th. So it's going to be Saturday, June 26th, and I'll likely be watching it online. But I want to make sure I put that in there to clear up what I stated so it doesn't confuse you all as to what the days are or why I was kind of in a rush. All right, that's all I got. Back to the show. Very excited for him for that. And that just kind of was like, it meant something to me for him to share and, want me to be part of like that occurring. Not a shout out, but I have 2 other friends who, well, matter of fact, you know what? Nah, we're going to do this. Because like I said, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, as many of you are or aren't aware. And I have had multiple friends, family, people who I individually know who have officially taken that step in marching or graduating or virtually completing their school. And a lot of them, I've been seeing the post. I've been noticing the support. A few months ago, I even had when I was doing a walk through town with a couple of my friends, we happened to see different individuals at one of our main schools here, VCU, just, doing collaborations and collages and images and designs and creating and YouTubing and just content. It was literally like a content creator's haven. And this occurs every year, and a lot of people don't realize or think about how relevant it becomes to promote yourself or really say, hey, I achieved this. Like, this is my moment, and let me have this moment. Like last year, many people had to deal with me for a couple weeks being super gassed and super excited about finishing at ECPI. So it was the same thing, like seeing everyone like have their moment. Like even a couple of my friends, one of which practically became a sister without knowing it. And we've been good friends for at least we're looking at about 2021, about five or 6 years now. We've been good friends, and she, her and her husband graduated, but I have like other friends who I was able to see their ceremonies or events or cap and gowns or nurse practitioners or, promotions. Everybody's getting opportunities and everybody's growing and building. And I love it. Like I think that's the biggest thing in the biggest space that I'm in right now. It's almost like I'm giving the passing message early, but I'm sharing this because it's one, like I said, I have not recorded in 2 weeks. I had a friend of mine who actually Patrick was on the show before, giving his backstory about sports and about basketball and how women's basketball changed his life. He wanted to come on and we were going to have a chop up about not women's basketball. We were going to talk about the playing games and kind of what was going to go on. But I've been in coding mode. I've been in creating mode. Stuff has been happening. So it's like me getting this slot of this opportunity to sit down and even do this is like a blessing in itself. So I'm being humble and like receiving it for what it's worth. I want to make sure I get everything in, but I wanted to at least get those thoughts out on the table before I get too in my bag, because I know how it is and I know how real it is with everything that's going on. So that's what I have for that. Without further ado, let's see if I remember how to do a podcast. And like I said, I will give this warning because I am in that space and I am in that zen. There might be some pauses because I may have to get up and go rehydrate or get myself together. I don't know, but I'm going to flow with the way the routine is allowing me to flow. I'll say that. So without further ado, episode 326, let's get into it. As y'all know, we always start off with our angel number. That won't change. Before I hit record, I considered for a slight second changing it to 521 because multiple reasons, for my dad's birthday, as well as the simple fact that for quite a few months I've seen the angel number 521, and I've looked up the meaning behind it, but it just caught my attention, and I was like, I'm almost ready to do something unorthodox. But I said, we'll run with the process, and if I feel like I need to come back around to it, I might. We'll see. But angel number 326, strive for your future. The prosperity you are yearning for will come when you encounter angel number 326. So you have to register your willingness to find what suits your desires. Additionally, you have to declare your admiration to secure a great future for yourself. The spiritual perspective needs that you struggle in the line of your work to accomplish the success you want in life. Of course, it will be the only way to assist you in overcoming the challenges you face in life. That would be an excellent resource for getting your success on the right channel. The implementation of good things that happen in life requires you to act according to angelic news. Hence, you are receiving the message of your angels with much audacity because you have unique gifts. If you keep seeing 326 everywhere, they advise you to stick to the right place and move forward. It will be the genesis of the things that require you to grow. Thus, nothing should come between your goals. Be straightforward in what you do. And things you should know about 326. Facts about 326 are that you have to forge forward when things are not working in your favor. Notably, the above beings are there to start moving in the direction that will assist you in making the right choices. Hence, do not give up on some imaginative stuff. The significance of angel number 326. Do you know that angels live among us disguised as human beings? That unexpected helping hand from a stranger just at the right time. A pat on the back or an encouraging word from someone you barely know to urge you to keep on moving. these ministering angels are everywhere around us. And at times they send us secret messages. In this case, it is angel number 326. Do you take your time to nurture and grow to grow your home? This angel is reminding you the importance of home and family, the love, warmth, understanding, and care you get from your family. The angel number 326 conspires numbers 3, 2, and 6. The attribute for number 3 is for you to step out with courage and confidence. Have a servitude nature that is the attribute for number 2. Instead of waiting on all the time for these things being done for you, wear the other shoe and serve others for change. At times you have to deny yourself something so that another person may benefit. Additionally, number 26 sacrifices the attribute for number 36. Angel number 326 says that the uncertainty of the future makes it hard for you to make any tangible comments regarding your financial situation. The message from your angel is for you to take a risk and invest your money where you have wanted to invest. And they have a few more things that you're welcome to read at your convenience. This one is very, very breathtaking, especially with knowing at times that I've gotten information or received messages through people who have never seen me, never talked to me, never met me a day in their life. But in one immediate interaction, I felt the need to tell you this. And as we say all the time, what you do with that information is personally up to you. But it's more beneficial in the long haul to utilize the information being given, because it's not just being given just because. It was given for some purpose at some point. So if it's been put out there, receive it, have open arms, have an open mind, and know that it was for a reason. And that's what I'm gonna leave you all with from that angel number. I personally can say the last couple of weeks, I've gotten more messages and more information from people that I would have never expected. Like even down to what I gathered with healing trauma, what I gathered with, if it's your time, do it. If you need to take a chance, take a chance. Don't ignore the opportunity of investing in yourself. Like I've heard all of these things the last few days or the last few weeks, and normally I would be quick to shut it out and not be interested, but now it's come back around. So, you know, that's something that's very, very eye-opening and very embracing to receive. Jumping into sports, I have, well, let's see if we want to do this. We'll run this a little different today, because the NFL released the schedule. All of the NFL teams released their schedules. Everyone was very creative. I looked at a couple. Of course, I looked at the Panthers. They were doing somewhat of the trend breakdown of what different creators doing their creative things, and talking about who the different teams that Carolina was going to play. Some divisions are going to be running into that dreaded end of season division fight or flight type of matchups. One of the examples that they mentioned in the CBS Sports example is the NFC East, which is many of you have heard me say time and time again. The Cowboys, the Eagles, the Washington football team, and the New York Giants always run into these debacles of who can get those 6 wins. Well, let me rephrase that. Who can get at least 4 wins in their division, let alone get enough wins outside of the division or non-conference based. So they were breaking this down. They talked about the Washington football. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. The Washington football team has one of the weirdest scheduling quirks that the NFL has seen in recent years. Washington will close its season with 5 straight divisional games, becoming the first team since the 1995 Tampa Bay Buccaneers to close their year with that many consecutive games within the division. back when the divisions had 5 teams instead of 4. The Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles are 2 other teams that will play 4 division opponents over the final 5 weeks. Let's see. Carolina Panthers are the other. An interesting trend involving the NFC East teams. The Giants also play division opponents in 3 of their last 4 games. So the NFC East is likely to come down to one final week once again. Why did the NFL set up the majority of NFC East games to close out the season? Charlotte Carey, the league's director of broadcasting, explained a unique quirk on the NFL Reddit page Thursday. We generally like to see division games at the end of the season. We think the NFC East is going to be really competitive this season, so we're excited to see how it shakes out this year. So it didn't happen on purpose, but we didn't preclude it either. The NFC East has featured a different division winner in 16 consecutive seasons, the longest current streak in the NFL. The last repeat division winner was the Philadelphia Eagles from 2001 to 2004. So the league is banking on that streak to continue. Washington won the division with a 7-9 record, while Dallas and New York finished 6-10 as the division was decided in the regular season's final week or final game in the division's case. Washington beat Philadelphia to wrap up the division. And they give a little bit more information on just the breakdowns of each division, what you can expect for betting purposes. If any of you are or aren't aware, more betting and gambling. You saw a bit of it last year, but I think you're going to see way more of it this year. But they do kind of point out that the NFC East is going to be the big division to really question and talk about. I will say this, because when I did look at it at the time, it was very interesting when I looked at least, like I said, I looked at Carolina's schedule and I just was like, this is not going to be a good year. I'm going to read out our actual games we have this year. Preseason, not to be funny, who cares? Like, they're going to play, well, we played 3 teams for preseason. We play the Jets week 1. Then we play the Jets. The Jets week 1 is interesting because they're playing, it's going to be Sam Darnold against his old team. Big whoop. I don't know how else to really put that. And then we have the Saints week 2. Texans week 3. Cowboys week 4. Work cut out for us, right? Eagles week 5. Then you're running into the Vikings week 6. I'm trying to remember, when is our bye week? Because it's almost like they're not. It's like bye weeks are being taken away or something. Oh, okay, so it's like near the end. All right, I got it. Okay, week 13. Wow, we got a late bye week. I didn't even peep that. Yeah, so Vikings, Giants week 7, Falcons week 8, Patriots week 9. So that'll be the Patriots week 9 is going to be an interesting matchup because that's going to be Cam Newton coming back to Carolina. I see what that's all about. Hang on. Multitasking like trash. Cardinals week 10, Washington football team week 11, Dolphins week 12. We got our bye week 13, and this is when the shit hits the fan. Falcons week 14, Buffalo week 15, Tampa Bay week 16, New Orleans week 17, and Tampa Bay again week 18. No pressure, right? We're starting the season at home. We win the season on the road. I've said it projectingly aggressive early on, and I'm standing behind it. I think the chances of us going above 500 are low, but that's me being transparent, not me being pessimistic, me being honest. So that's where I'm at with that breakdown. The big story that happened a few weeks back, I didn't have a chance to really share it because, like I said, I took a week out. Well, actually, I mean, it happened over the last week, but it became like really official when he actually signed. Tim Tebow reunites with Urban Meyer in Jacksonville and will be playing as a tight end. Now, before we go too far into this actual article, the interesting thing with this acquisition is, as we know, he played under Urban Meyer in Florida. His NFL season wasn't the most phenomenal, but it wasn't atrocious either. And being an analyst is great, but if you can get an opportunity to still be able to play, take it. And that's basically what he did. I'm going to go through this story as best as I can. The public reaction to the news that Tim Tebow would sign a contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars to play tight end didn't cause the Jags to get cold feet. Tebow is officially part of the club. The QB turned tight end inked his contract Thursday morning, the team announced, and will join his teammates for official workouts. For off-season workouts. I want to thank the Jaguars for the opportunity to compete and earn for the chance to be part of the team. I know it will be a challenge, but it's a challenge I embrace. I am dedicating to taking the direction of our coaching staff and learning from my teammates. I appreciate everyone's support as I embark on this new journey. OTA workouts began Monday. The Jags intended to sign Tebow as a tight end following pre-draft workouts. The report set off a firestorm of reactions ranging from "Are you serious?" to "About time," and seemingly every response in between. The Jags could have decided, as many teams did years ago before Tebow washed out of the NFL, that the distraction wasn't worth it for a player who remains a long shot to make a roster at a new position. Instead, they plow forward. Coach Urban Meyer, likely the only man in the NFL who would give Tebow a shot, noted after NFL Network reported the imminent signing that the deal wasn't set in stone, but spoke glowingly of Tebow's transition. Oh, okay. And I'm just going to share this story early. Any coaches that have taken the vaccine in the NBA will be allowed to be on the sidelines without a mask. We saw this coming. I'm not going to give any vaccine tangents today because that's not where we are. There's a thought going around. He was in the best shape of his life, asked to see if he could work out with a couple of our coaches. Meyer told Chris Collinsworth PFF podcast last week. I wish I wasn't even there. They came back to me and said, "Wow, this guy's in incredible shape." Then I went another time and watched them try him out. And they said, "Go work on these things." He comes back later. They try him out again. I'm not there. They come in and they said, "Wow, this guy has ball skills. He's a great athlete. He looks like he's 18 years old, not 20. Whatever he is, 33. I said, "Guys, you don't understand. Now this guy he's the most competitive maniac you're ever going to talk to, and let's give it a shot." Give it a shot, they will, and it's a long one. The 33-year-old earned one official target in his short NFL career. It predictably went incomplete. Now he'll try to earn a job primarily catching the ball and blocking. He hasn't played in the NFL regular season since 2012 for the Jets. He had cups of coffee in New England. The way news writers write stories is so mind-blowing. But anyway, he had cups of coffee in New England and Philadelphia before heading into media and baseball career. Now Meyer's former college quarterback is attempting to make the position switch many coaches wish he tried late ago. Better late than never. A confluence of circumstance led to Tebow's signing in Jacksonville. Meyer's presence was reason number one, followed by the unsettled tight ends room currently without an alpha. Tebow's willingness to switch positions and his apparently noteworthy workout. Two things. He may or may not be making the most money with the media role. And number two, maybe the Jags really needed a tight end. And he could come in and actually fulfill the role of being a tight end. That's kind of all I got on that one. I wasn't oohed and awed or immensely surprised by it. It was what it was, and that's just kind of where we stand on that. I hope he, is able. The big question or the biggest concern is that, are we going to see him come the end of the season? I'm not going to say playoffs because Jacksonville going to playoffs this year would be the most blindsided thing, but it's also a matter of how their quarterback comes in. If he comes in hot and ready and can play, then who knows? But it's just going to be different factors. The division, all of that comes into play when you look at this team and this lineup. So we shall see. I am going to be intrigued. How many snaps he gets is going to be important. How he's utilized in preseason is going to be important. That isn't even talked about in this conversation either. Like, are we going to be seeing a lot of him in preseason? Is he going to be playing a lot of reps? Are they going to hold him for regular season because they want to be sure that he's able to play through? All of these things are going to be looked at and considered along the way. So just stuff to consider and things to look at in regards to this matchup. Going into the NBA, I promised myself I'm going to stand behind what I said, and I'm sticking to it because I told a couple guys in my sports group, I'm not talking about anything related to the former number one pick from the 2001 NBA draft. That's all I'm going to say. And the only reason why is it's not a concern of anyone coming for me. It's not a concern of not embracing my platform. It's because there are enough people doing it that I don't need to. And that's just where I'm at. I have thoughts that I've shared. Like I said, if you are an active member on Facebook, you're welcome to join. And we have chopped it up and unpacked it very well in that group. And that's all I'm going to say. I know that sounded very media-esque, but it's also because that's not a conversation that I really want to have. And that's the light way of me saying what I'm saying without saying it, because everyone else is doing that job for me without me having to do it. And that's not my style of a podcast, as many of you may or may not know. So we'll say that. And like I said, if y'all want to talk about it offline, the passbtpod@gmail.com. Email inbox is always open, and I'm open to dialogue about it, because I feel like if someone else were to come on and we had a conversation, cool. But me doing it by myself, no, not doing it. Sorry. Going into the NBA matchups, so we had the Grizzlies play the Spurs, and then the Lakers played the Warriors. We're going to talk about that matchup first, or those matchups first, and then we'll go into the East, and then we'll go into playoffs, like what I see and where things are looking. Because I did throw this as a wild question, or a wild card question amongst friends, and it was a very good roundabout way of conversation, to say the least. LeBron played a great game. Fans have to remember he is still human. I made mock of his when he got hit and when he was on the ground, but for him to still be able to play through that, and I think they even made a comment and saying he made the reference of saying he saw 3 rims, and I mean a lot of people are saying that's cap, but it's like, you really, when you're playing a game, and also for the Lakers, you have to remember something too. If the Lakers lost this game, I think the only other way that they were going to get in was they would have had to beat Memphis. So, or whoever was the winner between Memphis and San Antonio in that element. Now we're going to say Memphis had won because they already had played their game first. John Morant's a bad dude. And I was surprised in seeing it because, one, I don't know if anyone knew this or not, and anyone who is a fan of Memphis can come for me on this one, but I'm first to admit it. I really didn't see, I really noticed more that he's a driver, going to the basket, than he is a shooter. Because the one time I saw him shoot the ball, I was like, it's not the best looking shot, but it goes in type of thing. And it's almost like when we watching Golden State play Memphis showed us that the torch is being passed. If you don't understand where I'm going with that, I'm gonna slow walk this real quick. Anyone that's everyone that is in the NBA has seen, we are getting ready to hit that point of the year or of NBA careers where a couple of point guards are about to, I don't want to say fall to the wayside, but become household names on a different plateau. Case in point, Chris Paul has a couple years left. Steph Curry has a couple years left. Rajon Rondo, couple years left. Right now, we're coming into the next form of point guards because you have Luka Doncic, you have Trae Young, you have other guys who are in those roles that we could see make a much bigger noise where least expected. So I say that and I make that reference because Steph is going to shoot. We know Steph can shoot. It doesn't matter. And I tell people this all the time. Even with me not playing basketball as much as I used to, if I were to get out on the court and still be able to hold a spot and getting to a area to shoot the ball, I'm going to make shots. That doesn't change. What changes are the dynamics of you getting into the preparation of shooting the shot. It's no different than that factor. And I know shooting shots can turn into a whole different conversation, but we're not having it. But we were able to get our final teams. Like I said, Memphis beat San Antonio, LA beat Golden State, which put Golden State and Memphis against each other. And Memphis won. So now we have our team set for the West. On the East, Charlotte played as best they could. I don't know how else to put it, where else I can really go with that, but Charlotte tried, and it didn't work very well. And then Boston and Indiana was a decent game. Seeing Washington and Indiana play the way they did, platform words, and we're going to talk about this because I need to say this while it's fresh. We have to stop being so judgmental of athletes when we don't play the sport. And I'm saying that to myself as well. And it's probably going to be a roundabout way from what I didn't want to talk about that I said earlier, but I'm going to say it in this capacity, at least in the active players. Westbrook, LeBron, Durant, Harden, Kawhi, PG, Luka, Giannis, Butler. I'm trying to think of who else. Chris Paul, Julius Randle, Tyler Hero, Jason Tatum, Anthony Davis, Ja Morant, Jokic, Dame Lillard, McCollum. I'm naming Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid. Everyone that I'm naming, Donovan Mitchell, the stars and the guys on teams, we have to understand that they are going to do what they're going to do in its moment. Some nights are going to be awesome nights and going to be, hey, this man dropped some record-breaking numbers. But there are also going to be those nights that a player is going to play like complete trash. And you can't sit there and turn into the critic hater of saying, well, I mean, we should have seen this coming because, I mean, look at who he has around him. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, Bradley Beal. And I'm coming back, like I'm reeling this all around and saying it because regardless of what Westbrook does right or wrong, there's someone waiting for him to either look good or overlook his role of, for example, if he is playing the game to stuff stats, whose fault is that? Is that his teammates' fault for letting him get rebounds? Is that his fault for being a ball hog, even though he's not a ball hog if he's giving 10 assists a game? It's very challenging to look at finding the happy medium in this activity. Like people, I think Oscar Robertson came out and was like, for him to average a triple-double 3 out of 4 years and not be in the Hall of Fame, I mean, not Hall of Fame, but to not be in the MVP conversation is like, but their teams were trash. We gotta call it what it is. We gotta be real. Washington didn't have the best of seasons this year. If anyone was everyone, folks knew Bradley Beal wanted out. Regardless of what happens in this series, I don't know if Philadelphia if Philly's gonna be lazy in 1 or 2 games with this series. But if Washington gets knocked out, Beal is gone. Like, hear it out, accept it, and take it for what it's worth. Miami is an interesting story because they brought Oladipo over, and Oladipo now is likely not going to be playing the rest of this year, and he's going to be out next season. No Jaylen Brown is going to be a huge hit against Boston. The only thing that's tough, and someone brought this to my attention a few weeks back, having Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both play the same position on the same team is very challenging. And you can't unsee it because it's right there. It's broad daylight right there in your face. Who I'm keeping my eye on for this playoff run is, I think this is going to be his official first playoff run, especially as being an all-star, Julius Randle and New York. Because where Julius goes is where New York goes. And having Derrick Rose be their, kind of second unit guy, we're getting more shots and runs of quickly. It's going to be a unique situation in watching this team play. They haven't landed the first round. Atlanta's okay. Atlanta, the question that I shared in the group, and I shared this with them, was looking at all 16 teams. Who are teams that you're looking at and easily saying, forget it, we're not gonna hear their name in the finals? No one said the Lakers. No one said Brooklyn. I take that back. I think there might have been a Brooklyn comment in there somewhere. But even in hindsight and looking at the different guys who have or have not played, or the different, interactions or conversations that have gone on, we gotta look at it for what it is. Like, it's gonna be a true dogfight of folks trying to get to that next level. I'm seeing if I can find the actual article, not article, but the post. Okay. The question was, which teams in the playoffs are you already writing off as not even sniffing the NBA conference finals? Now, I'm not even saying the finals, just Eastern Conference or Western Conference. Someone gave Utah, Philadelphia, Boston, Phoenix. One person said Washington. I was the wild card because I'm not sold yet. The Clippers. I need to see, and I'm not, and this is going back to this, the fan in me, but also just knowing the way the game plays. PG is going to go through those ups and downs, those valleys and hills, as they like to call it. What valley or what hill shows up at what point of the playoffs is going to play into what we see with the Clippers. Kawhi can do everything he can. And then the other thing is, it's all about the other guys on the team. Because it's, we think of superstars, but it's also, in the Lakers case, if Tyler Horton Tucker gets off and gets a good run going, if Kyle Kuzma shows up, if Anthony Davis, if we still want to call it what it is, AD and LeBron are not playing at 100%. No guy plays at 100%. I know. But AD and LeBron, come on. One of them go down, it's going to be a long series. Or it's going to be a long run to getting to the finals. I had someone say Miami, which I think is solid. And which led to a comment, I cannot count out the Heat because of what they did last season. And even though Milwaukee is a better team than last season, Miami isn't afraid of them. Oddly enough, that's who they play in the first round. So if Miami can upset Milwaukee, it really makes things spicy. Even though I still like Brooklyn. And I'm very intrigued to see the statistical distribution between Kyrie, Harden, and Durant. No one's saying anything about it because it's not really a relevant story. The relevant story right now, and I'm going to go into this and then we're going to go into our next topic, because I can spend, anyone that knows my podcast knows basketball, I will drill you to death about basketball information. The dream matchup for the finals that everyone wants to see is Brooklyn and LA. If you go back a couple years ago, rest his soul, Kobe Bryant, the series that everyone was wanting to see in the finals, they wanted to see Cleveland and LA go against each other because everybody wanted to see LeBron and Kobe go at it. Not to turn into the GOAT conversation, but to turn into, hey, both guys in the finals was good. What y'all looking like? What y'all trying to do? And it just didn't happen. Because the run to get to the finals, and I think someone asked the story, which is a harder one to chase, to reach, the NBA Finals or a Super Bowl. It depends on who you ask. Because and it's like easily your quickest option is the finals, because you can be up 3-1 in the series and lose the series. Granted, in football, yes, one game, you're gone. But it's also like some teams go into the playoffs in football and they already know for a fact it's going to be a tough road. Unless you just made a strong run like, say, the Giants did, like Kansas City did a few years ago. Different things can happen at different times. Even with Philly looking like they do, I ain't wild by Philly yet. But I just, like I said, Brooklyn is the team that I'm keeping a close eye on, and anyone that knows me knows guilty as charged. I'm a Harden guy, James Harden guy. I love watching him play. But seeing how that team, the team game is going to be what makes or breaks this conversation. I'm not going into it as a topic, but I'm going to share this topic as it occurred. Last week, we did they did officially enshrine Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, late great Kobe Bryant. I believe Tamika Catchings was in that class. They were all given their spots into the Hall of Fame. And Tim Duncan went up to give his speech, which was an amazing. Tim Duncan is not very vocal, but when he talks, it's like you're gonna listen. I brought this up in the sports group that I'm in because it was just funny to me, because I was like, he got these championships. His last championship he won at the age of 38. 38 years old, he won an NBA championship. And the reason and or factor as to why he won that championship was not mentioned. Still mind blowing to me. And if you don't understand what I mean by that, I'll say it because I can. And it's me learning to use the platform. He didn't say anything about Kawhi Leonard, which blew my mind, because I was like, but then I also understand too, I think it's because he didn't feel as though Kawhi was committed to San Antonio the way San Antonio was committed to Kawhi, even though that story came out, or there's thoughts that Kawhi felt like he wasn't getting the love and support from the team itself. But hey, what do I know? Like I said, sometimes you just kind of pay attention to things as to what they are. And that's just kind of where that all plays out. So they mentioned, and I'm saying that, like I said, it's going to lead into the articles that I have, but the 2021 NBA Hall of Fame inductees was announced. And they've listed it as Chris Webber, Ben Wallace, Yolanda Griffith, and Rick Adelman. And I think they're saying Bill Russell is going in. I'm guessing Bill Russell goes in as a coach. Yeah, he's going in as a coach. So the 2021 class, you have Paul Pierce, Chris Bosh, Chris Webber, Ben Wallace. Coaches, you have Rick Adelman, Jay Wright, Bill Russell. WNBA, you have Yo-Yo, Yolanda Griffith, and Lauren Jackson, whether people want to give credit or not, Yolanda, Lauren Jackson changed the game of basketball on the low. Like, she really brought a different style of basketball that we weren't accustomed to at all. Being from from Australia, things of that nature. I'm going to talk about one thing because we shared it on there, and I'm going to share it in here, and then we'll get into the articles that I have about one of these inductees and all that has gone on. The $1 million question has come up, and I'm going to, this conversation I'm going to have on the platform because I feel like it needs to be had. The question came up, okay, cool. Ben Wallace is getting inducted into the hall. The first thing a lot of people say, hey, just let everybody in the hall. All right, cool. We let everybody in the hall. Some people in, some people out. We can run that game. We can play that story. I have no problem with it at all. Then it goes into, okay, if Ben is making it, why didn't Chauncey Billups make it? Statistically, Billups was not as big of a factor as Ben Wallace. Now, to retract that and to be quite honest, Ben Wallace was not the most offensive-minded player in the NBA. Anyone that was everyone knew that and will always know that. He was a defensive force more than anything. I know then people will say, well, what about Rodman? But it's like, let's keep something in mind. When Rodman played for Detroit, he was an offensive, like a very key offensive factor. If it wasn't Joe Dumars or it wasn't Isaiah Thomas, it was Dennis Rodman. It was, it was the Microwave. If you don't know who that is, I'm not sitting here just saying it just because. Look him up. He was a very key factor to their playoff run. But when you look at the Detroit team recently, that team now mind you, since that team went to the finals and won a championship, the following year, of course, they lost to the Spurs because and I still can remember it to this day. I remember the fact that it was very defensive and very slow. But it still was a decent matchup between both teams, right? So here it is. Like I said, the season before, it was them playing against the Lakers. The Lakers were old. They were washed up. And when I say old and washed up, not Kobe and Shaq, but Shaq was coming down a little bit in his play. The decline was like his prime was not he was coming on the decline of his prime. Kobe's still in go mode. You got Gary Payton and you got Karl Malone, who pretty much are 2 seconds away from saying, hey, I'm done with basketball. I'm trying to get them a ring. Couldn't do it. It did not look like the most phenomenal series. And there were a lot of off-court incidents, all of that stuff. The $1 million question that came up at that time was, would Ben Wallace have made it in the hall if they didn't win the championship? No. Point blank. There's no other way around it. The championship was the cementing factor. The retraction of the response then goes, well, what about the fact that he played with the NBA Finals MVP and Billups, who should be in the hall? Go back and look at the stats and also go back and look at the merits. Because this, and the other thing too, this is something I'm going to say about it and I'm going to shut up about it. A lot of how the league views or manages who goes into the hall and doesn't go into the hall, a lot of it's popularity, a lot of it's politics, a lot of it is media oriented. These people, the people who get folks into the hall, people who vote for defensive player of the year, all MVP, third, what is it? All NBA team, defensive player of the year, most improved, 6-man. All of that shit is done by media. And I didn't realize or factor that in or think about it as a thing until I listened to one of the I Am Athlete episodes where when folks are trying to get to Canton, Ohio is the big deal for the NFL. If I'm being voted in by a bunch of folks who just watch me play, it's not the same as you playing against me and saying, yo, you're a Hall of Famer. You should be in that conversation. Like, it should be players who have played in the game. Football or basketball. And I would almost say the same for baseball. The tough part with baseball is it's tainted, but whatever. We know how that goes. As I mentioned, one of the players who is going to be inducted into the Hall next year is Chris Webber. Chris Webber's been waiting for a while. A lot of people will probably look at it and say, why should he go in the Hall? He hasn't done anything. The closest they did was they competed with the Lakers, but they didn't get over the hump. All of that can be said, whatever. Chris Webber got released from TNT. He was supposed to be doing a game for a Thursday night broadcast. They then put in Reggie Miller to work with Marv Albert for that night. He had been calling games for TNT since 2008. In a 15-year NBA career, he was named to the All-NBA team 5 times and won the league's Rookie of the Year in 1994. His most productive years came with the Kings, who made the playoffs 6 straight appearances while Webber was on the team. And they're talking about different options of who's going to be playing or who's going to be filling in that role for that. I want to make sure because I found another article because I want to be sure that I got the actual what happened. No further details were provided about the sudden turn of events, but it is certainly quite a shocker. Webber's contract was set to expire at the end of this season, and earlier reports stated that the possibility of an extension was very much in question. Nevertheless, something significant must have happened for both parties to make a rather abrupt decision at a crucial juncture in the season. It looks like TNT and/or Webber could not wait any longer and had to part immediately. The timing of the divorce is clearly suspect. Broadcasters often finish out either a contract or a season. In this case, Webber calling one final set of NBA playoff games for TNT and then calling it a day with Turner. That did not happen here. It raises a lot of eyebrows. It's hard to imagine. It's hard not to imagine that there's more to the issue than what's on the surface. It is worth noting that Chris Webber had a falling out with TNT back in March when he decided not to take part in the NCAA tournament coverage in the Indianapolis bubble. Turner officials were reportedly quite understanding about the situation at hand, but what drew their ire was how Webber waited until the last minute before making a decision. This left TNT scrambling for a replacement, and it looks like this issue took quite a bit of toll on the relationship between both camps. If you had that decision or had it in your mind that you really didn't want to be at that event because of COVID, that's fine. But you'd want to at least let them know what was happening so they could at least put the preparation in place for, hey, we got to factor in how we're going to do this without him being on stage or him being at the helm. And that was ignored through this, at least how the story tells itself. So TNT did what they had to do. And TNT wasn't really, I'm probably going to sound like a bad guy for saying this. Chris Webber did what he did as far as handling, being in his role of being in media, but he wasn't somebody that I was like, oh man, I'm looking forward to Chris Webber coming on here tonight and giving his analyst, thoughts. He wasn't horrible at the job, obviously, but he wasn't my personal go-to. But that doesn't, that in hindsight shouldn't make a difference. I give it a year or two, he's going to find another role. I just do not hope that he looks at the ESPN realm, because I don't really think I think ESPN is holding on as best as they can, because like I said, they got a couple guys who are on there running and doing things. But it's really not a place that I would want to, like, that's me. If I'm getting a position, it would be something that's not in the front view. I'd rather be behind the scenes. That's my personal take, and that's, take it or leave it. I thought I was done with sports, but I forgot I have one other story that literally just hit airwaves last night and this morning, about LeBron James had violated protocol by attending an event, the COVID protocol. He was found to be in the breach of the NBA's health and safety protocols this week. He won't be suspended, as the nature of the event didn't raise a threat level of virus spread. James was one of several high-profile guests present at a promotional event for a tequila brand he backs earlier this week before the Lakers' play-in game against the Warriors. The tequila was poured at a brief outdoor photo shoot, and invites, including recording artist Drake and actor Michael B. Jordan, had to produce proof of vaccination or a recent negative test in order to attend. Even with those measures, James, who has declined to say whether he has received the COVID-19 vaccination, was found to be in violation of the league's health and safety protocols. Because let's be real. If he has or has not taken it, his choice of taking it or not taking it is going to cause more controversy or more attention than what the NBA needs right now. There, I said it. It's a violation of the agreed upon protocols, and as we have in other comparable instances around the league, it has been addressed with the team, a league spokesperson told ESPN on Friday. According to league protocols, players who fail to comply with rules are subject to warnings, fines, and suspensions. They likely gave him a warning. They let him play. No harm, no foul. He's going to play. He's going to play tomorrow, point blank, or Sunday, whenever you listen to this podcast. And they give a lot of other information regarding this, the story. It hit as a topic, and I was like, since it's here, I'll bring it up, because I mean, that's what we're here for. Earlier this week, going into stuff, by the way, almost forgot to transition. Horrible me. Google had their event. And anyone who knows, I am always here to give tech content, not just iPhone content or not just Apple content. I'm here to give technical or tech-related content. Google had the I/O 2021 event. And the day of, I didn't have a chance to watch it. I did watch the briefing of it. Some good things coming, as always. I think Google is making it their goal, as they've always been, to push more towards getting people on board with the with their Pixel, the Google Pixel, excuse me. The link that I have in the show notes will
Good morning, everyone.
Make noise just like that. But that is on the link that I provided, you can actually watch the keynote in a 16-minute breakdown. They're giving so the key things that they pointed out, they're giving a more radical and bubbly new look. So for instance, if you use your device with the new update, Android 12 rather, it's going to have it where if you clear all your notifications off your screen, they're making proper use of the full screen with the time, because I think that's one of the worst things with any device is, yes, the time of the size of the time is cool, but if you don't have anything that's really on your screen, I should be able to have that screen to be utilized by putting the actual time. Because when most people, the average person that holds their phone and has their phone is looking at the time on their phone, unless they have a watch, and then they just look at their watch, or they look at their computer, whatever whatever option you have. They even went into the detail of the actual, how can I describe this? The actual images that you make your background, the style of your pages will match or coincide with it. So it's not like a contrasting concern of trying to get a good visual. A great example of this is with Apple. If you use certain wallpapers, if the wallpaper is very bright, it's automatically going to make the letters dark. And vice versa. If you have a dark background, it's going to make the letters white. And that's for the time on your main screen, as well as when you're going through your apps. It's the same thing. They're looking to put more time into Workspace, which I have yet to use. By the way, it's office software that I think they're looking to have this kind of compete and be entwined with your Microsoft Teams, your Zoom, what we use in our class. I think it's called Bungo. It's basically like, it sounds like a drum beat, and it's not a bad interface either. Like, all of them are very resourceful to use. I never realized there's so many of them different ones, other than, like, for the longest I knew Skype. That was it. Google and Samsung are working together. They're going to work on putting the Wear OS and Tizen together. Project Starline creates a 3D model of a person sitting across from you, which was they showed like a nice little breakdown of that, which I thought was pretty cool. They're building a camera that is more inclusive of skin tone. Thank God, it took us long enough. Google Photos will be able to make animated photos from still shots. They did give a breakdown where they showed your photos can be kind of intertwined to make a story. They took like different photos from like one event, put them all together and made like, I think they took it where, yeah, so-and-so really likes this orange bag. And it was a reference where each picture you saw them wearing an orange bag. So it's kind of like collaborating or putting photos together without you having to go through the process of looking to the actual program to do that for you. I mean, the program is doing it for you instead of you having to do it. Google Photos will let you store photos in a locked folder, which is huge. Google will let you change a site's password right from inside its password manager. That's big. Because we are, like, both devices, Apple and Google, are working to understand the value of your data and how important it is to not have compromised passwords or not use repeated passwords over and over. I always promote this. If you do not or are not doing so, two-factor authentication. There are different apps on both Apple and Google that give you the ability to come up with a password that is going to be a complex password that can be unique to keep. And then what I always will tell people is, once you save that password, to put it as a username and password in a text file on a different app, whether you have Notepad, whether you have Evernote, whatever you use, to keep it there so that in case you blatantly or inadvertently forget, you can just go there and be able to get in. Google Maps AR live view tool will show more information. So when you're looking at your map, you'll actually be able to see more detailed information. They did talk about with the watch integrating more features from your watch that you would normally access on the phone through your watch, such as if you're doing, traveling somewhere, getting turn by turn direction from your watch. I will admit that's a dope feature that I did like on Apple when it came. If you use Apple Maps or the default map app, it would, like, if you're traveling, when you're about to turn or if you have to get off on a certain exit, the watch will start vibrating a little bit to let you know, hey, you're getting ready to turn, so you don't miss your turn, things like that. Google is adding a privacy-friendly sandbox for machine learning data in Android. Currently, there are 3 billion active Android users, and Android will support digital car keys so you can unlock your car with your phone. Google debuts its new health tool to identify skin conditions using your camera. I like that. That's actually, and that almost will help in like making the diagnosis transition a lot easier for the patient and for the person who's needing help. So big things coming with Google. Like I said, the video is on my in the show notes, so you can definitely check it out there. The Video Game Hall of Fame have added a couple of new yet old faces to the mix. Microsoft Flight Simulator, StarCraft, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, and Animal Crossing. And before you lose it, because I did too, Animal Crossing, they're referring to the OG Animal Crossing on GameCube. I knew I was old, especially in seeing Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. There were 4 titles that are introduced or inducted into the Hall of Fame. Flight Simulator is from 1982. Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego is from 85. StarCraft in 98 and Animal Crossing 01. They beat out the original Call of Duty, Portal, Guitar Hero, and Farmville. Farmville is literally the game that started the microtransaction chaos on Facebook. Just putting it out there. Farmville is probably still on people's phones to this day and was one of those apps that everybody was using at one time. StarCraft is the second Blizzard game to join the Hall after World of Warcraft was the first. World of Warcraft was inducted in 2015. Anyone can nominate a game, but a panel of judges and video game historians helps in the National Museum of Play making a final decision each year. They strive to choose entrants that have enjoyed popularity over a sustained period and have exerted influence on the video game industry or on popular culture and society in general. Past inductees include classics like Pong, Tetris, Mortal Kombat, and Super Mario Kart. Of course, Pong, you don't have a hall without Pong. That's just bottom line. So yeah, those are the newest inductees going into the Video Game Hall of Fame. Thought it was fun to do that as an add-in. I'm not going to read this article. I'm going to talk about it very quickly, but I'm not even going to say very quickly. I'm going to explain this because it was a mind-blowing thing when someone brought it up on their page and I didn't pay any attention until they did it. And then I was like, what? And I'm like, oh, this is the thing. So any of you who use Instagram, there is a feature, the option to add multiple pictures on Instagram changed and was updated. Now, maybe this was shown to users in an Instagram video, but I highly doubt it because the update was done. And when you were trying to add photos, typically you would see it looked like 2 squares, one sitting in front of the other, that gave you the option to post multiple photos. I think the maximum you get is 10. Well, when you open the app, like I went in, and this happened to me like a few days ago. I was like, oh, I'm gonna put my daily quote, and I was like, oh, what? It's gone. Where is it? But I realized I needed to hold my finger on one of the main picture that I'm gonna make the first picture, and then tap the rest of the pictures that I was gonna add to that specific carousel. One of my friends who I've had on Instagram for years. Shout out to Amber. She's I love her and her husband's relationship, and I love her content just in general because she's real with it, and I rock with it. But we I was picking with her a few weeks ago about her Dymo device for printing labels. But we were talking recently, and she was like, yeah, if you if you've been having problems with trying to get these photos up, I don't know if it was me. I went on this person's phone. I went on that person's phone. And I realized all I needed to do was hold and do that. I heard it and I understood it. But then when I actually tried it, and I was like, oh, I'm going to tag her and give her credit for this. So I did. And it definitely is a game changer in its own right. So for those of you who are or do utilize that is definitely a thing to keep in mind with adding new photos in groups, is to place your finger on the main picture, and if you hold it, you'll see the circle in the top right of the remainder of your images, meaning that now you can post multiple pictures. One day they're going to add, hopefully they add the feature where you can add more than 10 images. The thing that's, and this is something that's like a 2% thought to me, but it's just because it popped up in my head. I'm waiting to see what's going to happen when they take all of these photos that we've shared on all of these social media platforms and use them all against us. Because like they literally have all of that information and folks are like, oh, my social media page, they took my page. And I'm like, it's not really your page. You're just using it as a place to store stuff. To say what I was saying, that's kind of practically what it is. So I think about that from time to time. Just my random thoughts. Don't judge. I promise. We're going to get into our ass of the week and the pass the message. Our ass of the week is a little ancient, but it's still a funny ass of the week. Because when it happened, I was like, are you kidding me? This is actually a story, but it happened. So I'll get into that in a second. First things first. Oh, dang, I didn't even. You know what? Yeah, we're going to talk about all those things. So that I feel like we need to. I did listen to Cole's new album, J. Cole. Listen. J. Cole let y'all know I am here. I'm ready to rap. Let's get it popping. And rap he did. I definitely enjoyed listening to that album by far. And it's one that's worth listening to. I'll say that much. If you're not a fan of J. Cole, that's fine. I understand. I respect it. But I definitely enjoyed what I was able to hear in listening to it. Yesterday, my dad, oddly enough, it was on my dad's birthday. I was listening to some new music. I did listen to deadmau5's new single. Not a bad song. You know, I'm a deadmau5 fan by default. So anything that he drops is easily, I'm a jam to it because it's jammable by far. But a friend of mine who is like my music confidant shared a single by an album by Sinead Harnett called Ready Is Always Too Late. Now, this is important to bring up because she also made an album a few years ago called Lessons in Love. And it had a single on there called Lessons in Love. The song was called Lessons. And there's the regular version of the song, and then there's the acoustic. And when I heard those, I was like, okay, I like this. This is not a bad jam. And I listened to that album. It was a pretty good album. So when I heard this album, I was like, why does this artist sound familiar? And then when I went back to find the actual music, I was like, oh, wow, okay. Putting two and two together. So I definitely would recommend those two albums. Like I said, always get your spins and listens. On Friday, if you ain't did it by Thursday, get your speaker charged Thursday night, because Friday you will be jamming if you really are into music. And if no one else is doing this is my thing. I always do. Share music you find. Don't sit there and be the hogger of music like, man, I got these hot tracks and I ain't told nobody about them yet. Other people like music. Just send if you're on Apple, send the Apple link. If you're on Spotify, share the Spotify link. I've learned with my friends, I just share the Spotify link and I don't even say nothing. I used to share the Spotify images, but I learned it's better to just go ahead and get the link to directly send you to it, and then it'll play while you do whatever it is you're doing. So I've learned the art. I've learned the process. Shout out to Lilith Rose for that. That's been a gem that I've absorbed very well, and I'm okay with that. Before we do our ass of the week, I want to send my condolences to Colt Brennan's family. He passed away a couple weeks ago. To say what I was saying, he got Hawaii on the map as a football team. He did go on to play in the NFL for a few years, but he did pass away. As of when I read that story, I don't have any information on what caused his death. But I send nothing but thoughts and prayers to his family in their trying and tough times. As you all know, I like to make sure I give the right content or the right information, and I'll go ahead and share with you all that regarding this story with Colt Brennan. On May 10th of this year, Brennan was found unconscious at a hotel room after ingesting fentanyl. He was hospitalized at Newport Beach, California, and died the following day at the age of 37. He was attempting to enter a detox center for hours before ingesting fentanyl, but was turned away because there were no open beds available. So this is the reminder and the key factor of health over wealth. A lot of times people are in that space where they need help or are reaching out or wanting to get help, but sometimes being turned away in the moments that you really need help becomes very important, and this is a prime example of that. So again, I did say it earlier, but I'm going to say it again. I say nothing but my deepest thoughts and uplifting prayers to his family. Back to the show. Before I share the video or the story that I have as the ass of the week, and the passing message today is going to be heavy. I'm going to, as I always say, usually they're heavy, but this one is going to really be heavy because it's a two-parter, and you'll see what I mean when we get there. Our first ass of the week is everyone that lost their shit about gas shortage in the last couple of weeks. The news and the media will make us lose our shit without us having shit to lose. And we saw this on display in the last couple of weeks. So I'll give a quick story, but I'll give a more realistic breakdown of what's going on. A few weeks ago, it was a Friday. I got off work and I was like, oh man, I ain't got that much gas, but let me go ahead and get gas now. Better safe than sorry. Cool. Get gas. Go do what I need to do. No, I'm sorry. I'm going around town trying to find a gas station. Each gas station I go to, it looks like the Popeyes line when they were giving out the wings. I think you could get the 20-piece wings for $10 or something, whatever it was at that time. But it was just lines of people in line getting gas at the Wawa, at this other little small gas station. It was so bad where I was like, ooh, I know a spot that I can go to. As soon as I got there, and I was like, oh, they done put the caution tape around the whole pump, so you ain't even gonna think about getting none. I said, okay. I got one other spot. And I was able to go in. Luckily, I got to an area where I could just pull up. It was still a lot of people around it getting gas, don't get me wrong, but I was able to get there, get gas, and be out. A few days passed. I go to Wawa again, just, doing the usual purchase of stuff because I already got gas. And I happened to see the gas truck coming to bring gas. I said, this is before they said everything was straight with them and all. This is before all that happened. But because we are such impulse buyers, folks were buying gas, putting them in containers, putting them in buckets, putting them in storage bins. All of you dumb mofos are asses of the week in my book. And I'm not letting you off the hook for it because it made no sense to sit here and buy a bunch of gas and hold gas hostage, failing to realize that you are putting your life at risk holding gas just to have gas in the event that there was no gas left. Majority of people who bought gas was working from home too. Like, I need y'all to remember that. Majority of people who bought gas didn't have a job. Like, let's really call this what it is and really look at this for what it was. People moved and operated on a whole different path after this. And it was mind-blowing and just eye-opening all at the same time. So that's Ass of the Week number 1. Ass of the Week number 2 is Jake Paul. So Logan Paul is fighting Floyd Mayweather. Well, Jake Paul walks up to Floyd Mayweather, and in simple Jake Paul fashion, because Jake Paul is YouTube, not reality. He ain't not even connected. He decides to go up to Floyd Mayweather, and he's like, "Yeah, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Got your hat." He took this man's hat and ran. And when I tell you, Floyd Mayweather got so mad, and it didn't benefit because everybody made jokes about the fact that Floyd has hair, and I was like, I mean, it happens sometimes when life carries you. Life will carry you where it does. You don't ask questions. You just say, "Hey, I'm here."
Get Al Haymon. Absolutely. Yeah. Let me call Al Haymon. Let's make it happen. I'm on one night. Got you happy. You got a list.
I'm just gonna go into the video and then. This happens for like almost a minute and a half, by the way. Like, Floyd was pissed.
Let's go, baby.
And what made this an even more eye-opening conversation is what gets to me every time isn't the action, it's the reaction. And the reaction isn't the other person involved, it's the people around the action. If, of all things, you should be trying to get these people apart from each other, or just be in a beneficial manner to not cause more harm or damage. All you seeing is folks with cameras on tripods saying, "Fuck this tripod, I'm gonna make it a regular stand," and holding it overhead to try to get this money shot. And I'm just like, that is not the priority right now, y'all. But okay, hey, whatever floats your boat. I ain't mad. Do what you do. Fly like a pigeon, as I always call it. But this just like took it to a whole new level by far. Jake definitely gets ass of the week on this one. I don't like Floyd's reaction was what it was. Like, that was just a natural reaction being what it was. So I ain't even bugging about that. But it was just the timing of it couldn't have been any worse, and just how it all happened, it was just like, bruh, it was not that serious. But, you know, hey, sometimes people do what they do and think things through the way they think they're supposed to think things through. So yeah, that was mainly all I had on that story specifically. So our pastor message is hang on, I'm sorry, because I need the actual video itself. Yeah, he's not gonna have that. Okay, so this one doesn't show it, but it's like so there is a gentleman I follow on TikTok named Counseling with Mr. B. And oddly enough, I have a very productive connection with most counselors. I think if I was to ever do anything in the teaching field, I would be a counselor. Only because you're not a therapist, but you're also in a position to give a child the guidance and the foundation they need to get wherever it is they're trying to go. And tell them, like, hey, here's some stuff I did wrong. Don't do what I did. Like, figure it out this way. Or think outside the box, whatever. But he did a video, and it had 5 or 6 tips for healing trauma. I'm going to read these tips, and we're going to talk about it a little bit, and I'm going to give my other pastor message. Number 1, process your thoughts. 2, connect with people. 3, attend group or individual therapy. 4, take care of your body. 5, eat healthy, get plenty of rest and exercise. 6, give yourself time and grace to heal. anyone that knows me knows I'm a thought processor. I think things through. I'm always processing. I'm always piecing it together because that is just my DNA. Guilty as charged. I share with that disdain or that disclaimer because it's very key to where the rest of these things go. Connecting with people, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, or as I like to be considered, I'm an ambivert. Find that point to really get with folks that can get you in to a good space or out of your personal headspace. A lot of people aren't big fans of therapy, and it's understandable. Nobody want to pay money. Nobody want nobody to tell them about who they are. They don't know you from anything. You're wanting to get what you're expecting to get from the conversation. And that's all fine and dandy. But if you need help, get help. And because of how pride-ridden some of us can be, we don't realize that we need the help to get us to where we need to be and where we're trying to go. Take care of your body. I will admit, I've let it go. I've let mine just be, I've just done whatever, and it's been not the most productive of results. Like I took the walk last week. I didn't do one this week because this week I'm in get up and go, like, let me get this stuff off, which I have, and everything's been smooth. Eat healthy, get plenty of rest and exercise. The exercising does not go unnoticed. Like keeping your body in motion helps out tremendously. Still working on the eating healthy. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Rest. It's a challenge, but I'm literally open to being honest and saying creatives don't rest. True creatives, you're gonna, like, life's gonna make you rest. Don't get me wrong, but for the most part, I usually just am in my creative space, so I don't really give time to properly resting, and I'm open to working on that. And this is the most important one: giving yourself time and grace to heal. Some of us don't know what grace looks like. Some of us don't know what time looks like. I've told people this numerous times. I even had this conversation with somebody the other day. The two things that benefit us the most that we don't do enough of is time and space. We don't take time in handling things. We don't give things space to, like, work through it. We want to get it all fixed and patched up like ASAP. And it's like, maybe you need to get us a little time and, like, really let it go through its course, and then jump in and be not the healer fixer, but the one who knows, like, all right, I got to get this worked on, because if I want things to get better, it's only going to get better by me taking the time to really put it in a position for it to get better. And some of us know that, but some of us don't realize the magnitude it takes to build upon it. But our healing and our time and our grace, like, we need to give those things up and make it more beneficial by far. My other passive message that I'm going to share, which is my own personal passive message, is I beat the mic, because y'all know I always have to do at least one loud, hey, the mic work. My mic sounds nice. Check one. Is there's never anything wrong with planning from behind, but there's a difference in planning from behind and planning against the grain. I've seen it. I've done it. I'm in the midst of it now. You want to make it so that when you have those opportunities to do other things, you can do other things. Because if your focus isn't on the main things you want to get done, you're fighting against time when time is on your side. I'm going to slow walk this a little bit so I can explain what I mean, because a lot of y'all probably heard that and say, okay, what does that have to do with anything? In our lives, on most jobs, in our routines, there are deadlines. When you pay bills, you're paying bills for things to be paid by a certain time. If it's not paid by a certain time, you can lose said thing. Home, vehicle, phone service, you name it. Electricity, water. If you're in an environment that consists of working with calls or communication, when the call is made or when it's received, there's a turnaround time of when the call has started versus when the call should end, and you should be ready for another call. If you're not in that space to handle another call, that can possibly cause a delay unbeknownst to others. When you don't do those things, you're planning against the grain, because now you could be putting yourself in a position where you're going to be without certain things. One of which could be the employment. One of which could be a vehicle. One of which could be a phone. Like, you'll still have the phone, you just won't have any service. And even worse, you might not have a bank account. So it's things that you have to really take time in understanding. You've got to put the right things in place to plan for the right stuff. I always go back to this quote because when I heard it in 7th grade, it didn't make sense to me, but it has come full circle. 24 years later, I had to remember, carried away. Yeah, 24 years later, it has come full circle. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And like I said, every week, whenever I share a lot of these, I share them for people who are listening. But most of all, I'm sharing them to remind myself, like, not planning leaves things like in disarray and causes the questions and concerns of what if and what could have been and what should have been and why this ain't here and why that ain't here. Only to realize that it all could have been done how it was meant to be done if you just take time and actually let it be done the right way, and or genuinely getting it done. So, like I said, find those ways to heal through your traumas, heal through your transgressions, heal through your trying times, but also don't fight time. You'll lose. Don't push things to directions that it may or may not need to go. Just trying to do something, you're doing yourself a favor when you're not. It's always something waiting on the other side, like you could have did this a little different. So just remember that. I hope everyone has an amazing week. By the time of our next recording, I believe we will officially be in Mercury retrograde. Or Mercury retrograde will be starting if it hasn't already. So be aware and don't complicate things that shouldn't be made complicated. Run with that and take it as you will. Until next time, this is The Past, and as always, I'm your host, BT. Y'all have a good one. You have made it to the end of yet another episode of the Past BT Pod. I hope you gained something or walked away with some worthwhile information, whether it was related to any of the information provided about sports, about music, about technology, or possibly my personal fave, the Pass the Message. We want you to come in with an open mind and an open heart and walk away with something that's going to benefit you and carry you through your day, through your week, through your month, through your life. And that's the main objective here on The Past. So I hope you were able to receive that. If you are looking to get find a good place to host your podcast, you can check out buzzsprout.com. And if you're also looking to invest in a microphone, a lot of people have their angst or their differences towards it. But I'm currently using the Blue Yeti X, and I've been using it for a little over a year. And it's still to this day one of my best investments I've made. And if I always give this as my closing tip. If you are a creative and you have the space to create, do not do your least to give your best effort towards what you're good at doing. Until next time, y'all take it easy.